Hey, welcome back to our channel. I appreciate the time you're taking to watch this video, and if you like it when you get to the end, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel. For the past couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about the student visa, study work permit, and even leading into the express entry and how to calculate the express entry points. And you've heard me mention once or twice or a couple times about the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. So now what I want to do is to sort of get into the nitty-gritty of the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program versus the Express Entry Program to help you decide what immigration program is best for you based on the pros and the cons, or just a comparative analysis. So I don't want this to be like a lecture, okay? And that's why I will ramble on about something to break the ice, because I can just sit here and just read to you guys and it's gonna be like stuff. And we don't want that, okay? So before I get into it, make sure to watch it all the way to the end, because one big thing about the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program is, so I have to get a job to even apply for this program. Where do I find jobs? How do I know who's hiring? How do I get a job? Job. And that's a question that comes in through our different platforms, Instagram, Facebook, on YouTube. Can you hook me up with an agency? How do I get a job? So somebody has invested their time into putting together a list of all the employers in the Atlantic provinces, as well as the job postings that they have and their contact information, which is a big deal, because on Google, you can just Google designated employers for the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, and you will get a list of all of the employers. Are all of them hiring? No. Do they have the contact information there? No. I mean, you could Google the company and find the contact information, but that's a whole lot of research to do. So somebody's actually gone ahead and done the work for us, which we're super grateful for. So I'm going to share access to that list with you after I go through the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program versus the Express Entry Program, right? So stay tuned all the way to the end. You can do it. Stick it out with me. Let's go. All right. So the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program is really a fast-track immigration program that allows employers in Atlantic Canada to fill job positions that they have not been able to fill locally. So they invite people from other countries to come to either Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, or Newfoundland and Labrador to work and fill these job positions, right? Whereas the Express Entry Program is more of a point-based immigration system that facilitates the immigration of skilled workers to Canada who are more likely to succeed in the Canadian economy, right? So one is point-based and one is employer-driven. Now, each of them have 3 programs through which you can apply to, right? And it just depends on where you're at. It depends on your educational level. It depends on your work experience. So Express Entry now has a federal skilled worker program. It has a federal skilled trades program, and it has a Canadian experience class program. The federal skilled worker is more managerial level, professional people, and people who are in technical jobs or skills trained, right? Whereas the federal skilled trades program, more people who are along the line of manufacturing, agriculture, a butcher, a cook, a plumber, people who operate at that level within the trades realm. And if you're in that, you will know that you're in that, right? And then the Canadian experience class, now I think it's very comparable to the skilled worker class, except you would have to have worked in Canada for at least a year to be able to apply through that stream, right? But when you do your profile and you go through you're selecting your job or telling the system what you are, where you work, what your NOC code is, it will determine for you which category you fall in, right? The Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program also has 3 programs, but one is the International Graduate Program, another is the Atlantic High Skilled Program, and the Atlantic Intermediate Skilled Program. Now, the International Graduate Program is just somebody who has come to Canada from some other country and is in school in one of the Atlantic provinces, right? So there's allowance for them, or there's provisions for them to be able to apply for certain jobs once they finish school. The high skilled program is similar to the federal skills trades program in Express Entry, whereas it's more managerial, more professional, more people who have technical jobs or skills. And the intermediate skill now gives allowance to people who have at least a high school education, right? So you can go through and with just high school education, still get a job in Canada, which is really, really, really good. So just to put them beside each other, the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program has more allowance in there for people who just have a high school education and don't necessarily, and maybe have like 1 year of work experience, right? So those are the 3 programs. Of course, there's more details to that. You can click the link below or pause the video and read the details on each of these programs to see which one you fit into and which one is more attractive. Now, on surface level, they both cost the same amount of money to apply for, which is 1,040 Canadian dollars. You still have to do an English test. You still have to get your educational degree assessed. And so there's some basic similarities between the 2 programs. Now, one stark difference between the 2, and I mean like a quarter of a difference, literally, is that, in Express Entry or any immigration program, or even as a student, you have to show some sort of money that says you can come here and you can support yourself. So therefore, the Express Entry says if you are one person and you're trying to apply through Express Entry, you need to show that you have a little bit over 12,000 Canadian dollars. If you're a family of 4, you need to show that you have a little over 23,000 Canadian dollars in the bank. Okay. The Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, on the other hand, if you are one person, you need to show that you have a little bit over 3,000 Canadian dollars. Remember what I said about for one person over here. It's a quarter of the difference. And if you're a 4-person family, you need to show that you have a little over 5,000 Canadian dollars. So there is a very big difference in the proof of funds between the 2 programs, which one may seem way more attractive and way more feasible to some people than the other, as you can imagine, right? So there is one plus for the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. Now, when it comes to Express Entry and the English test, the higher your English score, the more points you get. Because it's point-based, of course, the maximum score is what you ideally want. When it comes to Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, because it's not point-based, you need to get a minimum of 4 on the Canadian language benchmark test. Now, in IELTS world, that is like 3.5 in reading, and then the rest of them are a score of 4 or above, which is good if English is not your first language and it's not easy to get high scores on the test. The requirement for high English scores is lower if you go through the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program than the Express Entry program. Express Entry, you definitely want to get 100%. Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, a 14% mark will do and will get you there. I'm not just saying to blow it off and just get the lowest score possible, but if you're struggling, a lower score will still get you through this program, which is good. When the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program was rolled out, it was rolled out to have a specific end date, right? So that's another comparison between 2, whereas Express Entry seems to be forever. And over the next 3 years, they're trying to get at least 1 million people to come to Canada through the Express Entry program. The Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, on the other hand, it has a termination date of December of 2021, and the intent is to have at least 7,000 new families in Canada by that date through this program, right? So of course, the influx rate for the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program is a little bit lower than Express Entry, but on a scale of weight, Express Entry unlocks you to a lot more provinces than the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, which is another difference. Express Entry, if you're not connected through provincial nominee, you can go to any province that you want to go to. Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, you have to go to one of the Atlantic provinces. Now, what is the benefit really to you as an individual to go to the Atlantic province versus coming to Toronto or going to Vancouver or one of the more popular cities? The cost of living outside of the popular cities like Toronto and Vancouver is significantly less. Now, with that also comes lower wages, right? So you're going to be paid a little bit less, but your cost of living is going to be significantly less. So there's a plus in there somewhere. Whereas here, you earn a little bit more, you spend a little bit more on living. Does it balance it out? Probably. Here is the biggest difference between the two. The job. With the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, you have to have a job in order to apply. You have to have already been accepted by an employer that says they will accept you before you can submit an application for permanent residency. Whereas Express Entry, it's point-based. You have enough points, you get invited to apply. Can you come through a job? Yes, but you would have had to go through a process called Labor Market Impact Assessment in order for that employer to be able to hire you, which is a rigorous process, might I say, because the employer has to prove that there's nobody else in Canada to fill that job position, so they have to hire internationally, which is not always easy to prove. Toronto is overpopulated. There's people in Canada who are Canadians without jobs, who are struggling to find jobs. So, because you don't have to have a job in line or lined up through Express Entry, you are able to just submit your points. Yeah, you have enough points, apply for permanent residency, come to Canada, and then look for a job. With landing in Canada with a job already arranged, I think that is the biggest plus with the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. Now, people always ask this question. When I come to Canada, will I be able to get a good job? What's a good job, first of all? And second of all, if by good job, do you mean that you're trying to walk back into the kind of position that you were in your original country? I'm going to say 90% of the time, no. Sometimes it's going to happen. Most times it's not going to happen. And so you have to be prepared for that. When you come here through Express Entry, people's expectations are usually not met. There are people who come here as doctors from their country, as teachers, as different kind of professions, and they're not able to get back into their profession. And so they either change profession or they struggle a little bit to get to where they want to go to be, which is fine. It's just knowing that you're going to start somewhere, and just start somewhere knowing that you can climb and get to where you want to be. Now, when you come to Canada with a job already arranged, you know exactly what to expect. You know what your job is, you know what your duties are, you know what your pay is going to be, and it helps you to do better financially in terms of planning. Whereas here in Express Entry, it could be a little while before you find a job, or a job that you want to have rather. Okay, so that is one of the biggest differences between the two that I think is an advantage to the people who are coming to this program, right? Secondly, there is a mandatory settlement plan that people who are coming through Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program have to do through a settlement organization. They're not going to do it on their own, but a settlement organization will help you to determine, okay, what about housing? What about transportation? What about this? And to come up with a plan about moving and settling into Atlantic Canada, whereas Express Entry, that's not required. Now, through Express Entry or through other immigration programs other than Express Entry, there are settlement services, right? But you have to engage them, right? When Nick was coming here, he did get a call from a settlement Canada saying, okay, you're coming here, you know, we have these services available, please call us if you need us, da, 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 da. It's not mandatory, right? So I like the idea that one, you're coming with a job, and two, you're coming with a settlement plan, knowing that this is where you're going to live and all of that wonderful stuff. So that's another plus, I think, on that side. So that is something that is very important to keep in mind, to consider. And what I'd say about the whole program in general is that if you don't have family in other parts of Canada, or don't have family in Canada anywhere, anyway, and so it doesn't matter to you which province you go to, then the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, I think, is a good step into Canada, where you have job security, you have a settlement plan, and you know exactly what you're coming to and what to expect. Now, the only thing that you can't ever predict is the social atmosphere, is there places or things to do to have fun. All of that stuff you're going to experience it as you go along. But I feel like job security is one of people's biggest fears with coming here. And so here is the list of designated employers, contact information, address, and job openings for employers in Atlantic Canada. And this person has really gone through the exercise of separating them by province, separating them by industry. This company has spent a lot of time putting their efforts into this. And so they have reached out and said, you know what, I would like to share this information with you guys. And here is a link to get access to that database. But if you're serious about this program, you definitely want to make an investment in trying to find out what jobs are available, right? Because right now there is no other way to figure it out apart from calling everybody and saying, do you have a job opening? Do you have a job opening? Of course, you can go on Indeed and say, well, what are the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program jobs? Every employer is not posting a job on Indeed, and then you don't have direct access to contact these employers. So this company has taken the time out to put together this list, and so you can have access to that database if you click the link here or click the link in the description below. It will take you to the place where you can just pay through secure payment of PayPal. Very secure to go through PayPal, and I've set it up to go through me in order for me to communicate with them and give you access to this database, right? So I have, over the couple of weeks, I've done my research, I've checked the legitimacy of this, and it is an amazing resource that a lot of you are asking about. Do you need an employment agency if you're going to do this? No, because now you can do it on your own and you can see exactly who is hiring, what positions are they hiring for, and how can I contact them. Keep in mind that you're not the only one looking, right? And so if this is something that you're going to do, you need to decide that you're going to do it and then just act upon it. And don't worry about, oh, I have to worry about where am I going to live, because that's the whole point of the settlement plan. So we know that it's a process. Start to engage with employers, right? Take this list if you are going to Atlantic Canada or interested in going to Atlantic Canada. Purchase it through the secure method of PayPal and respect the time that this person has taken to create this list, and know that the access to it is for you as an individual. You can share the link to somebody else if they are interested in having access to that link, so they can go and purchase it as well. All right. So I'm excited to see how this list can help you guys. I do believe that there's a lot of benefit in having access to this, and there's a lot of benefit in coming to Canada and already having a job. I have seen people cry, and I have seen people celebrate because they've gotten jobs quickly, or they didn't get jobs quickly enough and still don't have the jobs that they want to have and have to go back to school and different things. I have seen people be frustrated, but I've also seen the other side of that. Okay, so have a job, get a job, come here with a job. I appreciate you and the time you're taking to watch this. Check out this database. Click the link below to purchase access to this database. It will benefit you greatly if you're going to Atlantic Canada, and know that this list is monitored and updated daily if new employers are hiring or if employers have filled job positions. And if you have somebody in Atlantic Canada who is willing to hire you, but they are not part of the designated list, they can apply to be part of the designated list. Remember that this is employer driven. So don't worry that your employer is not on the list. Don't not worry. but encourage them. Tell them about the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program and encourage them to join the list, and therefore the job offer that they're going to give you now is a part of the designated list, and Bob's your uncle. So as always, I appreciate you. Please remember to subscribe. Click the link below or the link somewhere on the screen in order to go and purchase access to the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program database, and I will see you in the next video.